Conquest, an initiative by the Center of Entrepreneurial Leadership, BITS Pilani, is India's first student-run startup accelerator, which provides mentorship to India's best startups. Conquest Demo Day 2022, conducted in Bangalore, brought forth innovative ideas and solutions by startups and enabled them to network with India Inc.'s biggest luminaries.
BITS Pilani has been on a forefront in the entrepreneurship segment, and I'm very happy to say that the Center for Entrepreneurship Leadership, which is actually the leading this Conquest event, which is a student-driven event, and the BITS Pilani has been always providing the platform to get into the new subject area like new venture creations through which the students are getting benefited, and creates an ecosystem where they are able to have their own ideas and innovations, which can become an integral part of the future startups.
Conquest is an example of one of those programs that is so sorely needed within the ecosystem. I think what we do as accelerators, usually we interact a whole lot as an ecosystem, and including WeWork Labs, we interact with your founders who have sort of raised seed money up to your Series A's and your Series B's, corporates, everyone else involved. But the student community is someone I think as an ecosystem, all accelerators want to engage more with. And I think BITS Pilani and Conquest have been doing this incredibly well for a few years. This is the first time we partnered in such a deep way with them. This kind of a conduit to the startup ecosystem from the talent community, most of which come from the student community, is so critical to actually help this ecosystem grow as a whole.
IDFC First Bank is committed to supporting the startup ecosystem, and working with the BITS Pilani Conquest enables us to support the entrepreneurs in their journey.
Conquest Demo Day not only saw path-breaking ideas, but it was also a platform for industry stalwarts to share their wealth of knowledge. Esteemed panelists put the spotlight on how budding entrepreneurs can groom and sharpen their skills to cater to the ever-changing demands of the market.
There's a new word that's entered the lexicon of not just media, but I think the world at large, which is the new normal. I think the new normal was for the startup ecosystem last year, $38.5 billion in deal value coming into the system. High-profile exits also happened through listings. And therein comes another new normal in 2022, which is a reality check. I'm really looking forward to this. So we'll start the conversation. We'll dive straight in with the founder's side. Rahul, has the ecosystem changed? And are you feeling the new normal, which is a 22 new normal, or the 2021 was the real new normal?
I think that reality hasn't changed. What remained real previously was that you need to add value. Whether it be your customer, your supplier, you had to add value and you had to make sure that they value it as well. And that remains true today as well. It hasn't changed. If you are starting something up, you need to be out there understanding the customer. You need to be out there understanding the partners who are the ones who are helping you grow the ecosystem. And as long as you're doing it, there would be people who would come to you and fund you.
Raghu, what about you? I mean, you're a serial entrepreneur almost, and you've had various iterations.
See, I think the only reality is the cycle. There are ups and downs. That's the only reality, right? And 21 could have been probably an up, right? And I've seen 2 or 3 such kind of cycles. So because of which I understand the euphoria that was associated with 2021. And what has really happened, right? And it's not that 2022 is bad, all right? Probably during the upcycle, there are 100 VCs chasing 50 companies, right? But in a down cycle, what I witnessed is 30 VCs are going to chase 10 good companies. The question for most of the founders is, are you a part of that 10? So I don't think so. There is a complete standstill that really happens.
That's interesting. It's time to turn left. And the optimism that our 2 founders here have, which is very inspiring and very positive. But Shama, what's the reality check? What are you seeing as far as the marketplace is concerned?
I think this is the right time for our economy to go through some changes. What is the new normal? I don't know. I think in a startup world, I don't know if anybody sitting here would want to have a very static new normal, because that's the fun of being in this industry. I think any idea, even today, if it disrupts the status quo, is going to get good funding. I think the investors should be cautious. If they are not, the businesses are only run with one perspective, run for profit.
Rachit, can you sort of decode what happened post-pandemic and where are we right now in that entire journey, if we may sort of sum that up?
Maybe if we rewind to kind of end of 2019, there was, I think we were on a positive uptrend in terms of like where startups were going, the amount of funding that was in the ecosystem, things were progressing smoothly. Obviously, March 2020, things came to a grinding halt. There was almost most VCs kind of paused and said, let's see what happens. And everything just went to kind of a wait and watch mode to see what happens. There was a lockdown. And then suddenly, as things opened up again, there was a huge kind of, it went from one side to the other in terms of digital transactions, consumers coming online, because there were no options in many ways. And so everybody thought that's the way that it's going to be forever. And it went from wait and watch and no funding happening or nothing happening in the startup ecosystem to the other extreme, which was that everything is going to be even better than it was before because everyone's coming online in larger and larger numbers.
Kshitij, legend has it that you started Pixel while still in college, right? And the idea incubated in the BITS campus. Why don't you tell us that, considering space tech can become a technical sort of a field, right? How do you go from a group of individuals who are fascinated and curious about an idea to a group of founders who take that idea to a startup, right? I would love to know about that from you.
As we went through multiple conversations, we made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. We talked to VCs right out of the idea, and we realized that we need to double down on the business case of the solution. Okay, fine, we have a unique payload we're trying to build for space. Who is the market for this? So talking to the right kind of people, understanding that there is a customer for something, because people cannot sponsor something like this. You have to build a business case, you have to understand the market. And I think that was the shift that we went through our third year, fourth year in college. But it's been interesting. I think a lot of it is also about storytelling. So once you're able to link your final destination, your vision, to a story, when there is a business case to it, when there is a lot of pride as well in terms of building for space, you're able to attract the right kind of people as well. So finding the right kind of team members, investors, just came as the story went ahead.
I think moving to Sumit, right? I would love to know from you, Sumit, that when it comes to fintech, right? We've seen that it is a fluctuating market impacted by external forces. I don't want to go into the regulation side of things, but as budding founders in the audience, the question that how do you deal with external forces in a market which seems relatively large? How do you do that as a founder? Would love to know that from you.
Honestly, when I came to fintech, within the first 1 year, I realized there are way too many external forces. Everything from regulation to multiple other changing dynamics. And one thing I began to realize that ambiguity had to become your best friend. And in fact, the first thing I tell to every new joinee right now is that, if you can't handle ambiguity, like don't join Fi or, previously Google Pay in that sense. And the way you solve that from a founder lens or an entrepreneur lens is understanding both where the market trends are going, what's going to happen, what's the probability, but in many times keeping a plan B and plan C ready. Right, if you're especially dealing with regulations or other things, ensuring that that you might have the best and most optimal solution which is working today, but you also, if you think there's a chance that this might get turned off because of A or B or C reasons, how do you ensure you have a plan B ready that you can switch to within a couple of weeks?
Going to Srikanth, right? And I think what you're doing in a space which is very, very evolving, right? Like when we talk about Web3 crypto, it is in and of itself a very nascent space. I would love to know what your insight into, the crypto space is when it comes to category creating companies.
2017 is when I think a lot of people kind of came to know about crypto and blockchain, at least in countries like India. And what had happened was a lot of developers started building in, and that was also the time when we wanted to do something. But then that was a time which is kind of rigged with a lot of companies and founders who were just trying to, one is the struggle that they faced, in terms of not able to understand what this new technology is, the lack of documentation back then. But more importantly, because the market was booming and there's a lot of speculation around, a lot of people just jumped in maybe for wrong reasons. And we thought it's probably not the right time for us to jump in at that point in time.
CoinSwitch Kuber's co-founder and CEO, Mr. Ashish Singhal, elucidated India's key to success in the 21st century. He also praised India's youth and their growing interest towards startups and making them great entrepreneurs.
Crypto is around the world, so I travel across countries, and where people ask me, what is India's right to succeed in the 21st century, right? And the answer is right here. It's talent, right? India's youth today is not looking it's not a bad thing that they're not looking to work in an MNC, but to create multinational companies of their own and create that impact, right? And that is our power. And that is why I personally believe that India would dominate the 21st century. Our idea of being the services nation has moved on to product nation, and now we are the leaders in entrepreneurship as well.